Grab your popcorn and soda and get ready to watch our latest movie recap on Popcorn and Soda. Subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update on your favorite channel. Movie starts with the genius girl named Catherine. At the age of just 10 years, she was able to solve the most difficult problems of mathematics. The principal then called Catherine's parents and told them that she had received a scholarship to join the second grade of junior high school. He also told them that she was also admitted to the best black junior high school. In 1926, racism in America was still very severe. All public facilities were different for white people and black, such as toilets, hospitals, schools, and even wash basins where black and white people wash their hands. All teachers were very proud of Catherine's intelligence. They believed that when she grew up, she would be a great person and will prove that all people deserve to be treated equally. After 35 years, Catherine is now an adult. One afternoon, when she was driving a car with her two friends Dorothy and Mary, broke down. They had to hurry to get to work. They were doing job in the offices of NASA as accountants. In that confusion, suddenly the police came. In those days, black people were highly suspicious. They are even forbidden to stop on the road carelessly. If any black people stopped, they would be arrested. Mary then informed him that the three of them are working at NASA. And if they will be late, the American rocket could fail to fly. After hearing the explanation, the police was then willing to help them. At the NASA office, government staff were seen watching the news about Russia's imminent launch of a rocket. The news then irritated the presidential. He then called the head of NASA named Harrison to quickly make a rocket to compete with Russia. Arriving at the office, they then went straight to work. While they were distributing assignments, suddenly their boss named Michelle came and then ordered Catherine to move to the Space Research Division. When Michelle leaves, Dorothy rushes after her. She asked for a promotion to become room supervisor because she had worked as a room supervisor for many years, but her salary was still calculated like a regular staff salary and never increased a penny. However, Michelle arrogantly thought that Dorothy was against it and threatened to fire her if she continued to demand a promotion. This made Dorothy very disappointed. On the other hand, Mary's superiors in the rocket assembly division were confused why his homemade rockets always fail to withstand the heat of the Earth's atmosphere. Mary then tried to explain in detail about the source of the problem. Hearing the analysis, her boss was so amazed and then said that he would promote Mary to become a rocket assembly technician. Her boss didn't care about Mary's gender or skin color. In such an emergency, he only needed experts to win the competition against Russia. Meanwhile, Catherine has just transferred to the Space Research Division. She was even mistaken for a cleaning service. When she met Harrison, without further ado, Harrison immediately asked, "Will Catherine be able to solve the rocket launch coordinate data formula?" She confidently replied that she would be able to solve it in few hours. Seeing that confidence, he then tested Catherine to check the report of one of the accounting staff named Paul, but while working, suddenly she wanted to pee. Because there were no black toilets in this division building, she had to run to his former division building, which was 800 meters away. After that, she then continued to work. While working in the new division, everyone was looking at her with a cynical look. After work, she still has to take care of her three daughters, since her husband and father died. Fortunately, there is still her mother, who every day helps look after the children at home. Sunday morning after worship, Dorothy and Mary tried to match Catherine with a soldier named Jim. Even though Catherine refused, but she was left alone on a walk. Jim said he did not expect NASA to accept black female employees. That sentence offended Catherine, and she replied that the reason NASA accepted her was because she was the first black student to receive a scholarship to the best white university in Virginia, so Jim can imagine how smart she is. Jim then fell silent. He said in his heart, "Why is she angry?" The next day at the office, when she wanted to get coffee, she saw a small coffee pot with statement, specifically for blacks. In her heart, she could only be patient, and then she went back to work. After then, Paul came to give the formula file. While examining, she was confused why so many scribbles. As if he was deliberately trying to bully her, so she couldn't finish the formula. But she wasn't out of her mind. She used the light of the lamp to read the scribbles. It turns out that the data in the file is the same as the data on the whiteboard, because it's not obvious. She then chose to work directly on the blackboard. When she went to the toilet, Harrison, Paul, and the entire research team were confused by Catherine's walk. So far they have worked hard to complete the formula, but in just a matter of minutes she managed to finish it herself. Inside Harrison's room, Catherine was being interrogated by several employees. Paul asked how the formula can be solved, even though he had crossed out a lot of data. She then explained in detail how she did it. After hearing that, Harrison then told Paul that from now on she had to provide as much data as possible so that this project could be completed quickly. At cafeteria, Michelle came over to them. She asked if it was true that Mary wanted to be promoted to a rocket assembly technician. Then Mary's application must be rejected because she has not fulfilled one main requirement, namely that Mary is not a white graduate of the university. No matter how high you are intelligent, if you don't graduate from a white university, you will never be a technician at NASA. Although hurt, she was silent. A few days later, Dorothy was seen taking her 2 children to the city library. But while she was choosing a book, she was reprimanded by a woman. The woman shouted her away, saying that this library was not a place for black people. After leaving, on the bus she took out a book that was secretly taken from the library. She advised her 2 children, when they grow up, if they want to be respected, they must be smart. One night Dorothy threw a party at her house. There Catherine met Jim. Jim tried to apologize if his words hurt her. He then invites Catherine to a romantic dance. Jim's sincerity made her melt. But in the middle of the dance, suddenly they heard radio news that reported Russia has successfully launched a rocket and managed to explore the planet one full circle. For a moment the atmosphere became silent. Early in the morning at the office, Harrison announced that from now, everyone would have to work overtime until the rocket they built could fly into space successfully. But days later, even though everyone has been working overtime continuously, rocket tests still fail. On the next day, NASA bought a sophisticated machine to calculate the coordinates of a point formula automatically, but unfortunately there is not a single NASA employee who can operate it. At night, Dorothy sneaked into the engine room, then studied how the machine works. The next day she explained, with this new engine, the jobs of black accountants could be in jeopardy of being replaced. Meanwhile, Mary went to court to apply for admission to one of the white men's universities. After getting the trial scheduled, she rushed back to the office and then told her boss she didn't want to give up. She would try her best to get into a white man's university to become a rocket engineer. A few days later, Harrison wondered why Catherine often left during work hours, even though it's not time to rest. Looked at Catherine's drenched condition, he was very angry. Harrison asked why she had to leave work every day for even 40 minutes. With teary eyes she let out the anger that she had been holding back for so long. She spent 40 minutes per day just for the sake of the toilet. Black people were not allowed to ride bicycles, so every day she had to go to the old division building for 800 meters in high heels, because in this building there are no toilets for black people. Harrison must have never known that there was a black coffee pot here. As smart or as good as she's worked, people will still be disgusted at her black skin. Hearing the truth, everyone in the room fell silent. After being satisfied venting her heart, she then asked permission to go to the toilet again. The next day there was a commotion in the NASA building. That day Harrison smashed black signage that was posted all over the restrooms in NASA buildings. He said that our urine is all the same color. Now there are no more white or black toilets. Month after month later the trial period ended. And on May 5, 1961, it was time for the United States' first official rocket launch. Rockets successfully flew into space. Americans celebrate the success. The ranks of the creators of the NASA rocket then received an award from President John F. Kennedy. In his speech, President Kennedy said that America will continue to explore space to win the competition against Russia. Day by day, Catherine and Jim's relationship became closer. In the court, Mary was seen trying to convince the judge. She applied for admission to a white man's university in order to become the first female engineer at NASA. Maybe now Mary has not accomplished anything, but she was sure in the next few years her name will be immortalized as one of the greatest women in the world. And that's when judge's name will also be recorded as the first judge to give black people the opportunity to study at white people's universities. She's way of negotiating and pressed the judge. The judge gave her permission. In the office, Catherine asked permission to work on the calculation formula for the project's next rocket launch. Though Paul was against her, but judging from the results of previous work, Harrison decided to trust Catherine. After 47 days in space, the astronaut who flew the NASA rocket back to Earth. But unfortunately, at the time of land, the rocket destroyed and sank in the sea. Government officials were again disappointed. As a result of the damage, the rocket that was collected from the public's tax money sank to the bottom of the sea. They demanded Harrison to perfect the manufacture of the next rocket. Then Catherine gave Paul the calculated data, but he refused, saying that this morning the data had changed. So she had to recalculate using the new data. In her heart she could only be patient. She then asks him to let her join the meeting so she can always be up to date with the latest data. Unfortunately, he still told her to count the existing data and not oppose. The next day, same as yesterday, Catherine's count was again rejected by Paul. Soon after that, Harrison came. She was desperate to ask her boss for permission directly, so she could attend the meeting. He finally allowed her into the meeting room. Astronauts and government officials have gathered. Harrison reported that currently the research team is still in the stage of calculating the coordinates for the launch and landing of the rocket. However, the government envoy was not satisfied with the report. They want clearer numbers. For being at a loss for words, he had to have Catherine do the impromptu counts in person in front of everyone. All staff was so amazed. Difficult formula that so far cannot be solved. She managed to finish it in just few minutes. Casually, Harrison said that the data will be finished in a few days. After studying for a long time how NASA's automatic calculating machine works, Dorothy was secretly trying to operate the machine. When the engine is running, suddenly two officers came. The officer was confused. Why does the engine work? Though no one could ever blame it. The next day, Michelle saw Dorothy, then reported that her boss wanted Dorothy to operate the NASA calculator and fire all the other black accountants. It turned out that yesterday's officer reported to her superiors. She answered if she will accept the position with conditions. All the other black accountants also had to work there with her. Finally, Michelle agreed and let all the black staff back to work. Mary's first day of college, confused lecturer, why are there black women? She explained that she was legally enrolled in this campus because it has a license. Everyone in the class can't do anything. Though alone among the white men, she is still eager to learn. When Catherine came home from work, she is shocked to see the people in the house neatly dressed. They also prepared a special dinner for her. Not long after that, Jim came. He knelt down and proposed her. There was nothing she could do but cry with joy, and said she was ready. The next day, Harrison informed that in the near future, NASA's automatic calculator will be operational. So from now on, the Space Research Division doesn't need Catherine's math skills anymore. She had to return to her old division and join the other black accountants. She could only resign herself to the decision. Before leaving, Harrison's secretary gave her a pearl necklace that all the research division employees had jointly made as a keepsake. A few days later, after returning to the old division, Catherine's wedding party was held. On February 20, 1962, America's second rocket launch began and was broadcast on all TV and radio stations. This time the American mission is not just flying into space, but also roaming around orbit just as Russia did. In the operator's room, Harrison asked Paul, why is today's machine count data different from yesterday? He then contacted the astronauts to tell them about this data discrepancy. Heard the news, the astronaut asked him to call Catherine right away. The astronaut believed in the black woman because he had seen firsthand how Catherine calculated. If after recalculation later she said the coordinates were accurate, then he will continue the mission, but if wrong, then the mission is aborted. He then ordered one of his staff to hurry to find Catherine. While running towards the division building, the accountant finally felt the exhaustion of running the 800 meters that Catherine used to feel every day just to go to the toilet. At the same time, astronauts are also on their way to the rocket. When she arrived, Harrison's staff immediately handed over the coordinates, then pleaded with Catherine to calculate everything as quickly as possible against the clock. After finished counting, she immediately ran to the operator station. When she wanted to leave, Harrison suddenly came out and told her to come in. For the first time in her life, she could feel for herself how the situation in the NASA operator room was. Harrison then reported to the astronauts that the results of the calculation of the coordinates matched and astronauts can continue their mission here. Rocket successfully launched into space. In the Black Clerk's building, when Dorothy wanted to go home, Michelle came to give her an official letter of appointment as head of the calculating machine division, because now their position is equal and she is no longer Michelle's subordinate. As a sign of respect, Michelle then calls Dorothy by her first name, Mrs. Vaughn. Few hours passed. Mission exploring orbit has been successful. Warning light is on, indicates that the rocket must immediately descend. This condition is also reported on TV and radio. But on landing, suddenly the heat barrier layer of the Earth's atmosphere experienced problems. But finally, astronauts managed to land safely to Earth. The rocket remained intact with no major damage, and the landing was exactly at the coordinates that Catherine had calculated. Heard the happy news, all Americans cheered. While others are celebrating their success, Harrison walked over to Catherine, then say good job. While joking, he asked, can we fly to the moon? She confidently answered, we're all ready. Thanks for watching.